Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I am so glad you're here. Today's guest is Carrie Leaf. Carrie, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
Sure. I think I'm going to go with a little bit of both, feeling like that's fluid. And, I have some days where I'm feeling those certain areas that are ordinary and other days where I'm rocking it. And those areas are going to be, different day to day. But I like to think that I'm constantly working towards badass in every area.
Is there anything that you have found that helps you to feel more badass?
I know that I am always doing my best, and I see it with my clients as well, when my self-care routines are as consistent as possible. And that's looking at mind, body, spirit, every single area, taking a holistic approach there. And it's impossible to be perfect with that. That'd be like a full-time job doing all the things I want to do for self-care. But when they're as routine and consistent as possible, that's when I'm doing my best.
So what's one example of something you do for self-care?
Yeah, so I am big on my sleep. That's important. I like to tell people 7 to 9, and I like 9 or 10. So I really am strict on what time I go to bed and what time I get up. I really do not want to, it happens, but I don't want to go under that 7 hours. Trying to eat well as consistently as I can, moving my body, and then trying to find that balance between work and life. And then there's other routines that I like to have in place, like chiropractor and gua sha once a month, or a massage once a month if I can get it. That one I lack on a lot, but those are a few of the ones I like to build in place and keep there.
Okay, so you mentioned chiropractor, and was it gua sha? And I don't know what that
is. Yeah. Hopefully I'm saying it right. Maybe I'm not, but that my chiropractor does the gua sha, and it's kind of scraping of the skin where you're stimulating the blood circulation and things like that. And I've really, I can't speak to the science and all, of that specifically, but I've enjoyed doing that once a month and feeling the benefits from that.
Oh, interesting. I go to the chiropractor. I'll have to ask him what it is.
Yeah. Definitely.
So will you share with us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yes. I am a mindset coach with a long background in psychotherapy. So I've been in the psych field for over a decade and a half. I don't know. I'm losing track of time the older I get, but somewhere in there. And so I've been doing mental health for a long time, master's degree in marriage and family therapy. And then since I graduated, I've been in a handful of different settings. I've worked on college universities, outpatient mental health, residential settings, military base, and private practice, substance abuse. I'm in private practice now, and mostly focusing on a mix of my therapy clients and my mindset coaching clients now.
So what have you learned along the journey from starting? What was the first thing that you started doing?
The first thing out of grad school was outpatient mental health, community mental health, 0 to 18 years old. And now I see 16 years old and up. I worked with kids for a lot of the beginning of my career, which was so much fun, but just have shifted into my focus, and niche down a little bit. But it didn't, what I have learned in all this time and all the different populations that I've worked with, it was showing up that it was coming down to some of the same basics that were working and helping everyone. And that's what really has made me stress the holistic approach, that no matter what we're working on, no matter the problem or the issue, I'm going to walk every single one of my clients through their mind, body, spirit environments and see where we're at on those, because they're so, interconnected and influence each other. There's many times I've had clients that have mental health symptoms that actually have a physical health condition underlying that they didn't know, or the other way around. There's physical aches and pains, irritable bowel syndrome, sore backs that are popping up, and it's actually, anxiety, depression, or something that's leading to that. So knowing and really scanning and doing thorough assessments and scanning all of those environments and looking at the holistic approach has been really central, no matter who I'm working with.
Yeah. And I think that that's so powerful, because it's so easy to be like, oh, those aren't connected. One doesn't have anything to do with the other. And I am a believer like you that they very much are connected. And I would say I struggled with chronic back pain.
Mhm.
And it was awful. And they're like suggesting I get surgery and all this stuff. And really, I think it was stress related. It was all, I mean, yes, I have arthritis in my back and a bulging
Sure.
disc and whatever. But I think that the stress had a huge part in it and nobody talked about that. So I think it's
Right.
important that you're talking about the whole thing.
Agreed. Yes, that's a perfect example, and it's not really anyone's fault, whether, not to put it on like doctors, they're doing wonderful job saving lives, or the clients, the patients going to them. We're doing what we're taught, and our medical model and our society has it all separated for the most part, so you're starting to see more people coming together with integrative health and functional health, which is great, but there's still not a lot of it all. You go to the doctor for one thing, you go to the chiropractor for another, you go to a therapist for another, it's all separated right now. And so, a lot of people don't know the importance of the connection there.
So what is something somebody can do if, say, they have a medical issue and they're not necessarily getting the answer that they want, or it doesn't feel right with them?
Mm-hmm.
What's something that they can do to seek answers? The audio's out again.
How about now?
Good to go.
I think I pushed the button. I'm not usually. Oh, I'm all out of my sorts in my home and not my office. Okay. Okay. So if I'm working with the client, what they can do, I'm gonna try to get as many details on that as possible, and then see if there's a pattern there, or the aches and pains or whatever physical issue they're dealing with seems to always happen around, I don't know, when they're about to take a test, or when they're about to do something at their job. Is it stress and anxiety around an issue that could be leading to that? Otherwise, I really like to refer my clients to a functional medicine provider and see if they can scan for things like food sensitivities or allergies, toxins in the body, things like that, and see if we can get them on track that way, that a lot of your other physicians aren't going to look for in that sense. A functional medicine person they're looking at the root cause. They're not just looking at the symptoms.
And that's exactly what I was going to ask you to explain, is what a functional medicine doctor is.
Yeah, so they really believe in healing the body from the inside out. And a lot, when you go to a primary physician, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them will hear your symptoms, look at the symptoms, and treat the symptoms with, say, like throw a medication at it. And then maybe the medication does help the symptom, but they oftentimes don't go further into, well, why is that symptom there in the first place? What's the root cause? How did that begin? How can we clear it out instead of just covering it up? And a functional medicine provider is really going to work to find that root cause, and then oftentimes look at, detoxing certain ways, or plant-based supplements to give your body what it might be lacking, and find out where it's not working its best, and what, organic natural supplement does it need to help feeling its best.
So what is a common problem that your clients have? And what is like one thing that you tell them, or a piece of advice that you give them?
Oh, that's a good question. So I really see people across the board. Some of the common themes are going to be anxiety is big these days, trauma, work, career issues, marriage, family issues. Now, that's me kind of like boiling them down. It's not necessarily that someone comes in and says, I want to work on trauma. That might present like something else, anxiety or issues with relationship problems. And then we're going to filter it down to that. So I do see across the board a lot of clients. The other thing is working with people that just kind of want to level up. Like they're feeling good, but they know they can do better. Maybe they feel stuck and they just want to go to the next level in life in a certain area, career or relationships or whatever. So I always say, again, for all of those people, I want them to start with the basics. I want them to get that solid foundation of general wellness. Let's do a thorough assessment. Let's see how you're doing in each environment in your life, your house, your home, your marriage, your finances, your friends, your career, your physical health, your spirituality. Let's assess it and scan all those environments and then see where we can build each area up the best possible so we have that solid foundation. And then from there, we are more secure to jump into some of the deeper level stuff, like what's the mindset block? What's the negative belief system that is keeping you stuck or that's leading to that anxiety? Then we can dive a bit deeper when we have that solid foundation.
So how can somebody start to dive into their own limiting beliefs or negative beliefs that they have?
Yeah, so that's tricky because a lot of times that's a subconscious thing. We're not consciously walking around telling ourselves these negative things about ourselves, but there's a handful of ways that you can start paying attention to that. Being in the present moment and noticing more, what does my body feel? If I'm having a strong emotion to something, where do I feel it in my body? Pulling yourself in mind and body, and then seeing if you can pick apart the thoughts that are spinning through your head in that moment. That's easier said than done a lot of times. Or maybe you're starting with the problem. What's the problem going on? And then we are going to go backwards from there and try to see what's the pattern in my life around this and what connections can I make. That is not always that easy done alone, and so sometimes mindfulness or meditation practices can get us a little more clear on our patterns, looking for those patterns. Where do I keep making this mistake and why? So mindfulness meditation or journaling can be a powerful one as well. But a lot of times we only get so far, and then we kind of accept a certain answer, or maybe we're in denial or we shove it down. And that's where reaching out to a professional is going to help us go further.
Yeah. And I think sometimes there can be a idea that seeking professional help is weak, or that it's a bad thing, or other people are going to judge me for doing it. What would you say to that person?
I would say every single one of us on this planet needs counseling, therapy, coaching, whatever you want to call it, or wherever you want to go. Every single one of us needs it, either all the time or at some point in our life. And that you do not have to have a diagnosis or a severe problem to reach out and get some help and some guidance. The people that walk through my office door or contact me and we work virtually, these are some of the strongest people that I have ever met in my life. And they just amaze me with the things that they face and they work on and they overcome. Yes, that it doesn't, we want to try to knock that stigma down. You don't have to have a problem to want to heal or self-improve. Sometimes life can be perfectly fine. We're doing great. And I just want more out of it, or I want to go to the next level. Anyone could use counseling, therapy, coaching at any time.
Yes, absolutely. I think that it's like we all have baggage. We all have stuff we carry along with us, but it's like, do you want to carry it for a week or do you want to carry it for 10 years? Because the longer you carry it, the more it seems to build up.
Yes. And I'll do, certain exercises with people to identify their negative belief. And it's funny because they kind of get shocked a lot of times, because all of a sudden they'll have 20 different negative beliefs on this piece of paper and they're like, whoa, I'm so messed up. No, that's common. We're often walking around with a handful of negative beliefs. Some are just stronger than others, and we're working to get to the deepest core one, and some of them are kind of similar. But there is not a single one of us that does not have at least one negative belief at any given time.
What's the benefit of peeling back those negative beliefs and looking at them?
I think that seeps into every area. There isn't one benefit that is going to just kind of improve your life in pretty much every area. One, you get to release a lot of, like you said, that baggage. You get to release and let it go mentally and physically, since we store trauma and those hard emotions in our body, so you get that mental and physical and spiritual release. And then when you're identifying your negative belief, the next step that I like to walk people through is in rewiring to have a positive belief in its place. And so when you're, think cognitive behavioral therapy, if you're thinking better about yourself, if you're thinking more positive things about yourself and who you are and how you show up in this world, then you feel better and then you do better. Think, feel, do. And so if we can get that programming in your internal hard drive, just automatically going to I've got this. I'm good enough. I'm worthy, then we're going to show up more confident. We're going to be more open to love. We're going to maybe take more risks and go for that promotion if we truly believe from the inside out we're these better things than we had been telling ourselves in the past.
So how often are you examining these beliefs?
With myself or clients?
Well, with yourself, like how often should we be evaluating our beliefs?
I think that's kind of never ending, but not like we're sitting down all day, every day doing this, right? That would be exhausting. Yeah. But I don't think we're ever, completely clear and free of negative beliefs. So I just had a client that walked in this week, and probably 2 years ago, we cleared out a negative belief of I'm not good enough. And she's just been doing fantastic. She's been doing, really good with her coping skills, with her self-care, with her maintenance, moving up in her career, getting married, all these things. She's been doing great. And then she comes in this week and she's talking about how she's a little stressed. She's a little triggered by there's things going on at work that are triggering her negative belief again. But the difference was if she would have walked in 2 years ago, it would have been tears, puddle on the floor, feeling very dark and sad place. But she walks in this time and says, all right, I have this issue at work. I know that I'm telling myself I'm not good enough. I know I'm standing in my own way, and then she's talking about what's the solution that she can do. And here's how she's going to handle it. And here's what she's already set up and the coping skills she's doing. And I'm like, well, you just did my job for me, because, it's not that we're never going to keep getting triggered by our beliefs, is that if we work mind, body, and spirit on all these things, identifying, clearing out, and rewiring negative beliefs, building that foundation, having the coping skills, having the self-care, we can handle them a lot better. When we get triggered again, instead of a 10 out of a 10, it might be, of disturbance, it might be a 1 or a 2 out of a 10, and then it's further and fewer in between.
Yeah, and I think that's an important differentiation because often we think like we just want one angle and that's it. Like we do the work and we get there and we're done forever,
Yeah.
It's not really how it tends to work out.
Yes, we want that magic bullet and then we can just coast for the rest of life. I'm good, and yes. And I'll have clients come back and say, I'm backsliding. No, that's life. Life's just throwing something at you again. You have the skills to handle it now. Right. So yeah, I don't think we get to hit that point where we're coasting. Otherwise we don't get to grow, right? We don't get to learn and grow.
No easy button.
Nope.
So I know a long time for me, because I work in law enforcement and we're taught to like stuff away our emotions, or I don't know that we're actually taught that, but it's kind of cemented in the job, because there's certain situations you really can't be emotional crying on the floor.
Yeah.
So it definitely was deeply ingrained in me to avoid emotions. Do you think that it's really possible to avoid our emotions and get away from them? Or do you think that it catches up with you at some point?
It definitely catches up with you. So, we all avoid or try to shove down, deny, suppress, numb out in a ton of different ways. We might do it with food. We might do it with exercise, with relationships, with our work, with TV. You just numb out, stay busy, avoid it, not deal with it, on to the next, right? So we all do that. But I would say what I've noticed in my practice is it's somewhere generally average, late 30s, early to mid 40s where we kind of hit this saturation point in life, emotional saturation point, where like we've been stuffing, we've been avoiding, we've been denying certain feelings or memories or experiences for so long. And then it starts seeping out in our life in the strangest, most bizarre ways. Like I'll have clients come in and all of a sudden be like, I have a good life, no trauma, like everything's great. I have all these things going on, but all of a sudden I have so much anxiety, I can't drive down the interstate, and completely clueless as to where this coming from. Well, when we dig in and go a little deeper, there actually maybe is a little T trauma or some kind of trauma from their childhood that, in their mind, they've overcome and let go and moved on because they don't think about it on a conscious level anymore. But subconsciously, it's sitting down there, simmering, growing, getting bigger, and coming back with a vengeance.
So that brings up a good point. These traumas we have when we're children, you think like, oh, I'm a grown adult, I don't have to deal with that now, or I've overcome it, kind of like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Ways that we can start to address those or deal with those.
I think that it really just kind of comes down to, you start with the present day issue. Sometimes we're not going to know exactly how much those events or memories or experiences impacted us until we start seeing these symptoms in our present day life. So when I identify a negative belief system with someone, and this is going based off EMDR therapy theory, when I identify that negative belief system with somebody, then we're going to do a timeline of their life of, okay, so let's say a common one's I'm not good enough. So times in your life from the very earliest memory that you have. And I'm always amazed. Some people, 2 years old, 3 years old, they'll come up with memories. I can't remember that far back, but the very earliest memory until, present day. And we're going to go through those significant events and those memories. We don't have to go through in detail. So that's kind of the beauty of it. Like, I don't need to know every detail about the event, just kind of a little bullet point of what happened where you felt not good enough. And then we can start seeing like things that, oh yeah, I see where my mind might have shifted in that way, especially developmentally. Had that happened to me as an adult, I would see it one way. But when it happened to 7-year-old me, I internalized that and made it my fault. I was working on an issue recently that I tied all the way back to 7th grade with my best friend at the time. And I was like, wow, I would have never thought that like that girl, I won't say her name, but that girl still bothered me. But then when I think about it, when I hear her name, I was always like, have certain, and then move on. But, as I'm digging into this issue, I'm like, you know what, that thing that happened in 7th grade with that girl, that really did get to me. And you work to clear that out and let that go and rewire that. So I see it in my healthy adult brain, not as 7th grade year old Carrie saw it.
Yeah. And I would think how you said you don't have to go pick apart every little thing of their childhood or all the trauma. I think that might be comforting to some people because you think you're always going to have to like pull off the whole thing, like pull off the scab or something. But if you could just like touch on the parts that as it relates to now, I think that would be helpful.
Yes, a lot of people will say, I'm nervous or I don't want to go open Pandora's box. I don't know what's going to come out, and I get that. I totally get that. And so, yes, kind of bullet pointing and letting them share as much or as little as they want to through that process. They could just tell me, oh, this one thing happened at this age. But a lot of people then, once they get it out, they end up sharing a lot more because there's a release that they didn't know that they could get just from sharing it and talking about it as well. But totally each person's preference. So
earlier you mentioned EMDR. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, it stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's a mouthful there, but it has been central to my practice and, life-changing for me, life-changing to my practice and the results I see with my clients. And so really what it is exactly what I've been talking about. It's about identifying the negative belief systems that hold us back, keep us stuck, going through that timeline, reprocessing to a positive belief instead. And so that the eye movement part, it's not like your typical talk-based therapy. It is in a way, but then it also isn't, because it's more structured. We have step 1, we have step 2, we know exactly what we're doing along the way. As far as the steps go, the process goes. And the eye movement part is the idea that, when you're sleeping and you're in that subconscious state of mind, the eyes are moving back and forth. If you've ever seen someone sleep, I know under their eyelids, it's going back and forth. That's kind of creepy to watch someone sleep. But if you've ever seen it, their eyes are going back and forth. And so the idea is you're simulating that eye movement because we want to tap into that subconscious state of mind and get to those subconscious belief systems. And we want to bypass that mental chatter, that conscious chatter that we're aware of. We want to bypass that by bilateral stimulation. We got lights and buzzers and the eye movement. And then we can tap into, kind of get in that zone, tap into what are those thoughts under the thoughts that you're aware of.
So who is EMDR for, and how long do you have your typical client or the average client?
That's a good question. Well, EMDR now is really for anyone and everyone. I use it for kind of everything. There is very few clients that it's just not the right fit for them. Like I've had that happen, but I mean, the percentage is extremely small. Let's say, less than 1%. It used to be when it first came out, it was, more studied around PTSD, combat soldiers. I think those, were the first studies and things, but now it's widely used for tons of different things, really anything, I think. Average client, that is so tricky because I've seen clients come in with the length and really zip through and like a handful of sessions. And then I've seen clients draw it out for a year, but I would say a lot of people can get through an EMDR in just a few months. And when you think about that, if you're only coming every other week or so, that's not that long. It's a pretty quick therapy in that sense. But then, you never know what life might throw at. Yes. So sometimes people are working on their EMDR, but then we got to kind of say, push pause, put it on hold, because we got to deal with what's going on in their present day life right now and put out that fire and get them regulated and get their life in a, as calm as possible place before we can jump back in it. So it's really depends, but it is known to be a short-term therapy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. But I would think it could also be useful for different life events. Like maybe one time you're going through a divorce and then another time, you have a death of a loved one. It's like you might only use it for a short amount of time, but with different major events, you might need it.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting. I'm not sure what the studies or the research say on it now, because I know that some research has said if there's a traumatic event, jump into EMDR right away. But I've also seen with some clients that they're just not ready to go there yet. They just kind of got to talk and process the event through, and then we can come back around and do EMDR, 6 months down the line. It's been interesting in my practice, which ones can jump right in and then some just can't. So it's about meeting them where they're at.
So do you kind of switch between EMDR and other methods of therapy?
Yeah. And again, that's, meeting each client where they're at. But I do a lot of EMDR and cognitive behavioral and then talk based. So I do mix and match a lot. And it really, I can't say that I only use those two, because I'm pulling from a lot of different theories and, approaches at any given time. But I do think that it's always going to be tailored to that person and what's going to work for them. Sometimes you start going down one road with somebody and you just, we're kind of spinning our wheels and it's like, nope, we just got to turn around and go the other way because that's not the approach for them. And that's okay.
So what about the person that doesn't know, like they know something's wrong with them or they feel inside like something's wrong with them, but they just don't know what's wrong or they don't know, who to go to? How could they go about like determining a therapist or what they should do?
I think that I would start with that scanning of the environments. If you're just, okay, if I'm just feeling off, I don't feel myself, something's wrong, I don't know what, trying to scan those environments of each area of my life. Where is the problem showing up the most? What is bothering me the most? But you really don't have to know what your problem is to reach out to a therapist or a life coach or a mindset coach. That's part of our job. Oftentimes people will come in and say their problem is one thing, and actually it's just not. That's not the problem. That's the symptom, or that's the one you want to address, as opposed to the one that's more at the core issue. So that is a big part of our job, is to help and guide what is the real problem going on here.
So can you delve into the mindset piece? Because I know mindset is a huge part of being a badass, and it also is what can kind of, I don't make you or break you sounds a little extreme, but it really does have a huge effect on your life. What role does mindset play in all of this?
Everything. Literally everything, and I'm not saying that our goal is to be all, Pollyanna, rainbows and butterflies, toxic positivity. We're not looking for that. We're just looking for real and authentic. But research shows that if we lean more towards the positive side of something, or we have flexibility in our thinking to challenge the negative thoughts, that we're just happier. We're just happier when we can see the brighter side. And so mindset is going to come down to everything. Two people can go through the exact same event. Let's say two people are in a car accident. Let's say they have equivalent injuries, and one can walk away really negative and traumatized and, in a dark, bad place from this event. And the other could walk away, having some strong feelings as well, but ready to recover and move on and learn and grow from that event. So it's going to come down to, how am I going to choose to look at this situation? And it doesn't always feel like a choice. And sometimes it's really not. We're really, as much as we want to choose one way, I want to look at it in this positive, healthy light. We're so programmed from life and life's events. And of course, some nature, some nurture, genetically, we might be prone to some negativity, some depression, some anxiety. But, we're so programmed in our mind and our body and through our life experiences to maybe look at things a certain way in this negative light. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I'll never succeed. The world's against me. These things, that making that choice to look at it in a healthy, flexible light feels impossible and does not feel like a choice. So when we can get in there, identify those negative beliefs and rewire, reprogram, it has an impact on literally everything in our life.
So do you have any sort of practice for yourself to keep your mindset to keep you in the right headspace?
So many. And, they're ongoing, they're never ending, and they're constantly changing depending on where I'm at in my life, my schedule, what I've learned. But, some of those are going to be, like I said, those, that foundation of sleep, eat, exercise, taking care of my body, knowing what I believe in spiritually. I don't care what you believe in, but when you know what you believe in, morals, values, spirituality, faith, those kind of things. And then working on that mindset piece. So there can be things like mantras and, telling myself on a regular basis certain things about myself, doing my own EMDR with another therapist. Let's see, what are some other, I'll do some self-hypnotherapy or guided imagery exercises that I just pull up on YouTube. And I'll do those on a regular basis. I'm not so fantastic about doing the same thing every day. Like some people will talk about, like, wake up at 5 a.m. and meditate and work out and do 7 hours of self-care. I've got 4-year-old twins and, a practice, and like, I don't have a time for a lot of things, but, if I can pop in a self-hypnosis on YouTube or a guided imagery on YouTube 5 or 10 minutes before I fall asleep and then kind of drift off to that, I find benefits from that. I like the mantras a lot, because if I'm struggling in a certain situation, if I can hear myself tell myself that same, like, it's going to be okay, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, you are good enough, you've got this, and I hear it over and over again, it's just comforting in that repetition. You hear it enough, you start to believe it. Some people, it's going to be yoga. It's going to be a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And that's a journey, finding what's yours, what works for you at any given time.
Yes. So I want to completely veer off track here. You brought up that you have 4-year-old twins, and I love that you brought up, like, this is everyday life. I can't do it all, because sometimes, like, moms especially think they have to do it all and feel like they're falling short. So I wanted to ask you, do you ever struggle with mother or mom guilt?
Oh my gosh. In the beginning, it, I think, was way worse, in their younger years, and either time, and they're able to do more things with age, and then myself working on that as well, because mine was pretty high, mine was pretty bad, and not that it still is, at times. But I think the most important thing for me, and probably for a lot of people with that, is really, really working. Okay, so people always throw out that term self-care, self-love. Well, what does self-love mean? What does that even mean? So I like to break that down to saying, be kind to yourself, give yourself grace and compassion and that flexibility. If we're really strict and rigid, or there's perfectionism in there, we are just going to beat ourselves up. And then when we're beating ourselves up and we're negative or we're anxious, our kids feel that energy. They feel that energy from us, or maybe we're shorter with them, or we snap on them, or we're not as present, we're not as engaged. I definitely notice if something's bothering me that, I can't, I'm not as present with my kids, and then I guilt over that. Right. But if I'm kinder to myself and I give myself some grace and flexibility, I'm able to shake it off and say, okay, maybe I didn't do X, Y, and Z today, but I can pick that back up tomorrow, or I can focus on all the good things that I did do. So kindness, compassion, and grace for yourself.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's helpful for the moms listening.
Yeah, it's a big one.
So can you talk a little bit about your new book?
Yeah, that came out in October. It's called Therapize Yourself. And really, it is just a step-by-step approach to everything that I just talked with you about. And it's kind of set up to be a self-help, self-assessment. So all the things that I just talked to you about, the book is designed to walk you through your own exercises, walk you through your own issues, scan your own environments, your own life, do your own thorough self-assessment on yourself, and see where you need to start working in on chipping away at each area of your life that'll benefit you, and just choosing and focusing on what area you want to. And then the book kind of ends and wraps up where we would go into, if you were doing EMDR, where we would do the reprocessing part of EMDR, because I don't exactly know how to walk people through that on their own, that part on their own. I mean, I've known people that have done their own EMDR on themselves, but I don't know, you get trained in that for a reason. So that's where I kind of guide people if they're feeling like they need extra help, and to dig in deeper, if the basic general wellness foundation wasn't enough, and maybe it is. A lot of times people get those basics down and they're like, oh, I feel good. I don't, I'm good right there. But if you're wanting a deeper dive and you want to get a little more help, then that's where I'm going to encourage, reaching out to a professional at the end of the book. But there's a lot of work you can get done in your own life on your own just by walking through the steps in that book.
So who's the book for?
Anyone, everybody. Again, like I said, it doesn't matter what's your problem, what you're working on. If you're just struggling with anxiety, depression, not feeling happy, lonely, feeling like you're stuck, like you just can't go anywhere, these will all, it will address and help you pinpoint where you need to start for any reason.
Okay, awesome. And I'm sure where can they find the book? Amazon?
Yep, Amazon, and there'll be a link to that on my website as well, carrieleaf.com.
Okay, awesome. So let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
Oh yeah, just start. Just start. A lot of times we put off taking care of ourselves because we don't know where to start and it's overwhelming. So just pick one thing, one tiny little baby step. If it's today, I'm going to work out for 5 minutes, or today I'm going to get a little extra sleep, or today I'm going to talk to that person I keep avoiding. One tiny baby step, just start, because, in a month and 2 months and 3 months, if you take a tiny baby step each day, you're going to be a whole lot further if you never took that step. So just start somewhere, and then celebrate those little wins, those little baby steps, because they're a big deal. They will add up to being a big deal.
Yes. Carrie, how can we connect with you?
Yeah, so my website, carrieleaf.com, is going to be where most of my stuff is updated and on there. And then Instagram is probably the social that I stay the most up to date on. That's at Carrie Leaf Coaching. So either one of those.
All right. Thank you so much, Carrie. You've been a total badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.